So hello everyone and a big welcome to today's webinar. This is the 5th webinar in our Toolkit webinar series. And today we're looking at making an impact, how to share your project story effectively. The first 4 webinars of this series explored kickstarting your project, effective project management, Food Safety 101, and the power of people and designing your project delivery. So as I say, they're all available to watch on our YouTube channel. It's fantastic to have you all here today as we come together to explore how we can reduce food waste and ensure good food reaches those who need it most in our communities. My name is Kerry. I'm the Education Coordinator here at FoodCloud. I suppose for those of you who aren't too familiar with FoodCloud and what we do, FoodCloud is a non-profit social enterprise working to tackle the twin issues of food waste and food insecurity. Our mission is to transform surplus food into opportunities to make the world a kinder place. FoodCloud redistributes surplus food from the food industry to a network of charity and community partners. So in Ireland, FoodCloud redistributes surplus food to over 700 community groups. This not only prevents good food from going to waste, but it also strengthens communities by ensuring more people have access to nutritious meals, helps community organisations save money on food bills, promotes personal well-being, and ensures that everyone plays their part in tackling climate breakdown. So the webinar series is all about empowering you, whether you're a passionate individual, part of a local group, or simply want to make a difference in your community. So we'll walk you through the FoodCloud Academy Toolkit, which is a step-by-step guide to help you start and run a food sharing project in your area. So what is a food sharing project? It is any initiative that shares good food that would have gone to waste, offering it for free or at a low cost. So each webinar breaks the toolkit down into easy to follow parts, highlighting the most important things to consider. Plus, you'll hear directly from FoodCloud experts and community partners who've already set up successful projects and are ready to share their experiences with you. So the webinar series runs every 2 weeks, and each week our 30-minute webinar will be covering different areas. So far we have covered Kickstart and Grow, essential steps and best practices for a successful food project. We have looked at Food Safety 101, essential laws and guidelines for food sharing projects, the power of people, recruiting, managing and motivating your team, bringing your project to life, practical steps for success. Today's one, making an impact, how to share your project story effectively. And next webinar, we'll look at funding made simple, securing support with confidence. So today's webinar will be short, practical, and packed with useful insights from both the FoodCloud expert and our community member who has been in your shoes. So what to expect from today's webinar? You will get insight into the power of storytelling to engage your community and best practices for demonstrating impact and building trust. So the FoodCloud expert today is Angela Ruttledge, Head of Policy at FoodCloud, and our community partner today is Sami, Seratan, Operational Manager with Feed Dublin, and both will be sharing their first-hand experiences. Just to note, we hope, or we will have a chance for a Q&A after the presentation, so feel free to drop your questions into the chat. We hope this session leaves you feeling inspired and equipped with the tools you need to take action in your community. So I will pass over to Angela to start the presentation.
Thanks very much, Kerry. Thanks for the lovely introduction. I'm delighted to be here today and this webinar. So that's me in the picture there holding an iron. I think I might have spent 5% of the last 12 years standing in the side of professional kitchens with an iron in my hand, ready to iron some tablecloths if there was a wrinkle anywhere in sight. So if you could just move on to the next slide there, Kerry. I would like, by way of an example of storytelling, and I hope I pull this off, to tell you the story of how I met Janice Down, who is our head chef in FoodCloud. So before I joined FoodCloud, as I just alluded to, I ran 3 restaurants with my sister and her husband. One of them was called Woodstock. And for 30 years, it was something of a dining institution in Dublin 7. I have no idea where we came up with the name. I think my brother came up with it. We didn't do branding in 1993, or social media, or websites, or storytelling. It was the beginning of a golden era of history, and I don't think we realized it at the time, but we were between one financial crisis and another, and things were just fine. you know, if you think of a song that goes with the restaurant Woodstock, it's not actually that beautiful song by Joni Mitchell, Woodstock. It's the Bangles, Walk Like an Egyptian, where they say all the cops in the donut shop go way oh, because it was always half full of policemen and Gardaí. So it was kind of an omnibus eatery. There was something for everyone. Words that came to mind in relation to Woodstock or slap up meal, homemade party. It was famous for cooked breakfast. And at 7:30 on Saturday morning, like when we opened up, it could be full of Gardaí, as I said. On match day, because we were so close to Croke Park, the queues would be around the corner. You know, we'd have one person whose only job it was to make toast on match days. So it was a really, really busy, thriving, buzzing restaurant. And we'd have the place full of Mayo supporters in the morning when they were coming in for their breakfast before the match, and then we'd be commiserating with them again in the evening when they were coming home and they left defeated, unfortunately, again. And then in March 2020, the sky fell down. Do you remember when that happened? I think everybody remembers where they were when lockdown happened. It was a terrifying time for everybody working in the restaurant business. Customers were blindly unaware of the restrictions that we were trying to put in place for their safety, for our staff safety. They were extremely frustrated. Our staff were, you know, amazing, but also terrified about the future as well. They didn't know what was going to happen to them, whether they would lose their jobs or not. It was a really traumatic time, having to close, having to lay people off, having to figure out how to wear face masks. And I could see, you know, the team's eyes, they were bright, they were ready for a fight, and they were still cheerful and willing to get stuck in, but they didn't know what would happen next. So it was a slightly chaotic time. And it was the day before St. Patrick's Day that we were locked down, essentially. And I opened the two cold rooms in our restaurant. So we had two big walk-in cold rooms, rather like we have in the hub in FoodCloud, not quite as big as that. And they were heaving with food because we were expecting a really busy day the next day. So I had no idea what I was going to do with all of this food that was going to go to waste. So I rang FoodCloud and they put me in touch with Janice, an amazing chef who at the time was working for one of FoodCloud's community partners in an organization offering day respite and residential and services to people with disabilities. So that organization was advocating and still is advocating and working for the equal enjoyment of everybody, of all human rights and fundamental freedoms, whether you have disabilities or not. Janice arrived in her chef's uniform in a very large white van, and she had enlisted her dad to help, and we filled the van completely with food. Together we avoided wasting all those ingredients and all the energy, the water, the hard work that went into making them, and it was the highlight in an otherwise very dark day for us. Janice texted me a week later to say that she had actually, with the food we donated, made breakfast and lunch for 349 service users and staff for 3 days, and that she'd saved €500 off her shopping bill. So that really meant a lot for us at the time. So I wanted to share that story with you because that's how I got involved in FoodCloud. I subsequently applied for a job here and started working here in September 2022. But I think the story illustrates the importance, if you want to move on to the next slide there, please, Kerry, of storytelling. And I'm just going to start with the idea that you already have a business plan when it comes to your project, be it a food bank, be it a pantry, be it a food rescue from somewhere. You already have a plan, as Kerry mentioned. We've already done those webinars and all the toolkits are available. And your plan has a vision, it has a mission, goals and objectives, and that plan is smart. It's got specific objectives, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant, and it's time bound. So all that information is there. And the next thing you have to do is try and get buy-in for that plan, whether you're looking for volunteers or you're looking for funding or whether you're looking for authorization to do what it is that you want to do. So I would say that funders need, if you want to just move on to the next slide there, Kerry. Funders need measurable results, but everyone likes a good story, hopefully like the story I just told. A narrative arc really helps people to remember what your project is, what it's about, and why you're doing it. Whenever you're storytelling, I think it's really important to use good visuals, and I'm a big fan of using good photography in presentations with as little text as possible. And I hope this slide fits the bill. Less is more. So you don't have to go into every detail when you're pitching your story. You can just share the key objectives, the headlines, and keep going back to them again and again, rather than trying to fit in every piece of information that you have to share and every detail of your whole project plan. I think when you are telling your story, that the small details matter. So if we go back to the story I just spoke about in relation to lockdown, and I was describing the type of food that we serve at the restaurant, the hearty breakfast, and the real detail of what we served and the type of customers that we have. And I think those are the type of details that stick in people's heads. If you want to move on to the next slide there, please, Kerry. So when it comes to storytelling, there are two aspects to it. We have to demonstrate the impact of our project, and we also have to tell the story. So if you want to just, sorry now to go on to the next slide again, looking at the impact, there are so many different ways of measuring your impact. So it's up to you to decide what metrics are best, but it's really good to get feedback on what metrics your funders or whoever is giving you the permission to do your project want. So for example, recently we asked one of our major funders whether the metrics that we were sharing with them were sufficient, and we felt we were giving so many different metrics, in terms of volunteer hours, number of volunteers, emissions saved from going to waste, meals redistributed. But they did want something slightly different, which is that they wanted the social media metrics associated with the funding that they were giving. So it's really good to ask for feedback on the metrics that you're hoping to deliver before it goes too far and you're not able to capture those. Some things that you might consider as potential ways of measuring the impact are the number of people using your food sharing project, membership numbers, whether it's weekly, whether it's annually, getting quotes from people if possible about the impact of the project on their lives, collecting feedback either through conversations, through surveys, or from letters of support, tracking value for money. So it's really good if you can sense check your project against other projects and do a cost benefit analysis. Track how much you spend on staff and volunteering. Obviously, you're going to be doing this as part of your budgeting anyway. And you could track the cost of, for example, delivery vans, a delivery van, if you were getting funding for that van against the number of meals provided. So we're always trying to track what exactly is the value add for the funding that's given. And then if you just want to move on to the next slide there, Kerry, to look at the more general storytelling aspect of it again. So obviously those metrics are so important, but they can be quite dead on a page. They're just numbers, and numbers don't really sink in with people unless you have the storytelling to go with it. So it's really important to say, obviously everybody knows what you do, or they will know when you start operating. How you do it is kind of interesting, like the technicalities of how you get stuff done is kind of interesting. But what's really important is why you do it. So just going back to the example of the organization that I mentioned that Janice used to work for, I made sure to tell you that they're advocating and working for the equal enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms by all persons with disabilities, as well as telling you, what she did with the food. I was also telling you about the cause of the organization. So it's really important to explain the why of what it is you're doing. And then if you just want to move on to the next slide, Kerry. This is just sort of a summary of storytelling. So again, you're trying to make a strong narrative arc, which I hopefully did with that story about meeting Janice. Always keep your target audience in mind. So think about what's going to be of interest to the people that are listening. So actually that's something that we always consider in FoodCloud, is whether the environmental story that we're telling about the reduction in food waste is more interesting, or the social impact of the food that we manage to redistribute is more interesting. And sometimes that can depend on the audience that you're speaking to. Always consider the 4 Ps of storytelling. It's just like being back at school. So you have your plot, your purpose, the people that are involved, and the place that it's going on. Do try and appeal to emotions. Again, this is something that we try to do in FoodCloud when we're talking about the impact that our community organizations make. You're always trying to do it in a way that's really, really dignified for the service users, but at the same time does appeal to the, the emotional impact of what's going on. I mentioned earlier on to forget about using too many words, keep it short and sweet, and don't have too many words on any like assets that you're using, any decks or PowerPoint presentations. Try and keep it as visual as possible. Make use of bright colors to try and capture people's attention, and pay attention to the composition of what you're saying while trying to keep it short and sweet. So I hope, and if you want to move on to the final slide there, Kerry, I hope that I have kept that short and sweet, but really just to give you a flavour of the importance of storytelling through both the story and through the impact metrics that you're using for your project. If anybody wants to get in touch with me after this presentation or with the other experts in FoodCloud, please do feel free to get in contact. My email address is on this deck. I'll hand back to you, Kerry.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Angela. That was fantastic. Sami, I'm going to pass it over to you. So I am.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to meet you. My name is Sami, and today I just want to start with a small story that we had about Feed Dublin, and we got a call that was on Friday evening. It's just gonna take 2 minutes. That was on Friday evening. Someone ring us telling us about the family, one of their neighbors, saying like she's really struggling. She's a single mom with 4 kids, and I wonder myself on a Friday evening to get a hamper of food to them. And when I went to the house, I seen like 4 kids. All of them were like really small, 3, 4, 6 years old, something like that. And when I went in the house, they were just eating chocolates. And I just had a chat with the mom there, ask her like, did they have any food in the last 2 days or something like? And she say like they haven't ate anything in the last 4 days except the chocolate. And that was really, really impactful story. And we continue to help the families. That's really the impact in the community. It's just one short story. We'll help the family, they get back on their feet. And just wanna share that with you at the beginning, like, and Feed Dublin, we got almost 3 years as a food bank. And we start only with a few of surplus food. That was like almost 3 years ago. And now we help more than 700 people with food on daily basis. And since the beginning, we try to get all the community involved, all the shops, all the factories, and the people that are volunteering in the charity as well. There is, I think in the next slide, Kerry, there is a few people that got involved in the charity. That's in the picture. You're gonna see a few of our volunteers that are there in the food bank Monday to Friday for a few hours. So we are open by appointment every day. And in the next picture, there is the hampers we are distribute to the people. Yeah, and I just want to share that with you. And right now, there is an increase of the people asking for help. Like every week is someone else asking for help. And we try to help as much as possible there with so many people. Yeah, basically that's what we do. I want to appreciate all the volunteers that are helping in the charity. We got 50 volunteers every week that are helping our charity. So we can reach to all the people. to help them to. We got like 60% of the food is it's getting delivered, and the rest of the food is getting collected from our store on by appointments. So yeah, we do our best to collect as much as possible with the surplus food. We got 30 slots every week to collect with the surplus food. And to be honest, it's really, really helpful. Sometimes we had a really, really low stock, and uh, we got a few shops, and the surplus collection helps a lot to keep going and help reach to the people. Even we help beside the 700 people that are getting help from us. We got some small organization that are asking for help as well. I think in the next slide there is a football club that are asking for. No, that's the students we got. Sorry, that's the students we got. They sent us an email that they want to volunteer, and they came in for a full day to help us with the food bank tasks. And in the next slide, we got a football club that asking for some sweets and drinks, and we help them as well. And all the sweets and the drinks was from surplus collections. So yeah, basically that's what we do. That's who we are. It's Feed Dublin, and I don't know if you have any questions, you can ask me anything, or
Excellent.
if
Thank you, Sami. Thank you so much. Any questions, just pop them in the chat and I can put them to Angela and Sami. I suppose first off, like the storytelling, the stories that both of you shared, it I suppose exhibits exactly the value of storytelling in terms of relaying that impact. So thank you both so much for sharing those stories. It was wonderful to hear. And as a Donegal woman, Angela, I'm glad that you pointed out that Mayo was going nowhere when they came to croakers. Sami, I might ask you first. You mentioned low stock, sometimes having issues around getting enough surplus food or food to redistribute and so on. I suppose in terms of telling the impact to get buy-in from organisations to support use, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, especially during the summer, like there is few local factories and shops that are working, that most of the people are on holiday. And then we even at the FoodCloud, sometimes that happens that we have a low stock and more people during the summer asking for help. That happens sometimes that we only send them like maybe some dry food because we didn't have any stock at all.
Mm-hmm.
That was last year. We didn't have, only drinks and sweets and few things. We still have some food for them, but like it's not really nutritional food that we had. And that happened like I'll say 2 months, July and August, when we basically didn't have much food on the shelves, but we still want to help people. And even the surplus food, some of the shops didn't have much at all, except like few crisps and few drinks. Depends of the time. And like before Christmas we got like really good surplus, but on the summertime it's really low. Yeah, and sometimes happen that we only send to people like dry food and ambient food, but not much, to be honest. And then we get back to them as soon as we got more food from FoodCloud. We usually get a lot of food, and we got a extra large membership with FoodCloud, but sometimes it's low. Like that could happen. Like
yeah, I suppose that just kind of relates to how important it is to get to be able to relay the impact in a meaningful way that that I suppose gets more buy-in from organisations and so on. Angela, I might just come to you for a second. You mentioned the importance of identifying the key points to share with the stakeholders, be it all the different stakeholders that you'd be engaging with. So I suppose any advice around how to identify what is important and what isn't important. And just when you're talking about that, you also mentioned the importance of detail, and detail is key, and making sure that that is relatable Would you just be able to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, there's a few things in there, but I think the first thing is to be really clear on what your objective is, and what it is you're trying to achieve. So if it's to get more food or to get more money, just to be really clear on that. And because the objective with, I suppose this is an obvious example, and I'm saying this now and people will be like, just like, this is so obvious, but like the objective is not to get more likes or to have more coverage or get more engagement. The objective is usually, how do we get more food? How do we get more money? How do we get more volunteers? How do we get more buy-in from government stakeholders who are in a position to help fund us, or from private people that are willing to help fund us? So I think it's just really important, and you'll already have this from the development of your general business plan or strategy, to think about what it is you need to achieve. And then when it comes to telling that story or creating the narrative around it, I think keep it small. So don't go into every single detail of what it is, but try and stick to a maximum of 3 key messages. And then, like the old, like doing your whatever junior cert, you'd be like, say what it is you're going to say, then say it, and then say what you've just said. So you're repeating the same 3 key messages over and over again. And then when I talked about the detail, I suppose that's really just around creating a powerful story or a narrative. Sometimes the devil can be in the detail, or that's what people will remember. I don't know. I was thinking about this last night. Remember that book, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? And
Yes.
what I remember from that book is the detail of what they ate in the book, because I would be really interested in food. So it was the little descriptions of the gravlax or the lingonberry pancakes or the filter coffee that made me really care about the characters. So that's what I mean by about the little details, the things that make what you're doing memorable.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Sami, are you still with us there? Sami, we might not have. That is perfect. So I'm going to bring these discussions to a close for today. Our next webinar, themed Funding Made Simple, Securing Support with Confidence, is on July 16th at 12:30 to 1 p.m. And we invite you to join us again using the same link as today. So I'd like to thank the brilliant presenters and to you all for joining. This was really insightful, and I hope that each and every one of you have been inspired from the presentations and discussions today. To watch the webinar again, check out our FoodCloud YouTube channel and share on your socials. And to get more information on setting up a food sharing project, check out our toolkit at food.cloud/academy/toolkits. Have a great afternoon, everyone, and thank you once again for joining. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.